Hey everyone, it's Michelle here. Today I just wanted to give you a quick little update of our seedlings. Right now I have them all outside because on nice days I do like to start hardening them off. This bench here is a little bit in partial shade, so I like to let them harden off in this partial shade area first so that they don't get the full blast of sun. So this first tray here, I have a bunch of flowers and they have pretty much all come up or are coming up right now. So I have my coleus in these first two rows, then I have alyssum, which are looking really nice. The rudbeckia is just starting to come up, so they're still a little bit small right now. Same with straw flowers, they've started germinating, but some of them still have to come up. Here are the dahlias coming up really nice and strong. These seeds and seedlings are pretty big, so I might have to move these into larger cells because this is a 128 tray, so the cells are really small for those. Behind there, I have all my peppers looking really nice. And then on this side, I have my tomatoes. Those have also come up nicely. The tomatoes were sown a week after the peppers, but you can see they grow faster, so they've already pretty much caught up. And today I'm actually going to be thinning out and maybe separating out some of these pots. You can see in a lot of these pots I have 2 to 3 seedlings. Some of them I have as many as 4 or 5. So I'm either going to cut them off at the base or separate them into individual pots, which I will show you the process today. And I'll be doing the same thing with my tomatoes because I sowed multiple seeds in each of these pots, and now I can separate them out and move each individual seedling into its own pot. And that way it just saved me a little bit of space during this germinating time, which takes for the peppers about 2 weeks and then for the tomatoes about a week. In this back tray here, I have my basil, which is all just starting to come up. So there's a lot of little seedlings here, but some of them haven't quite come up yet. The tulsi, you can just start seeing a little bit of green there. My rhubarb has sprouted. I'm still waiting for the agastache to come up. Here's my lemongrass that I started back in January. It's still really small, so hoping that it grows a little more quickly soon. Then I have some celery, which is still so tiny. I don't remember if they grew this slowly last year. I really thought they'd be bigger by now because this is over 2 months old now. And then on this table I have some more seedlings. These ones live outside in the greenhouse full time, so they're a little more hardened off, so I just let them sit out in the full sun. This first tray here I have gomphrena and penstemon, which was started on February 21st. They are all looking really good. Actually, this tray here I don't usually keep outside because the gomphrena is a little bit more tender, so these I will bring in if it's freezing. Here are my snapdragons. This is the Rocket Snapdragon mix, looking really nice. The other day I came in and thinned out any extras, so now there's only 1 seedling per cell. So they should be able to grow a little more quickly now. And soon it's going to be time to pinch these back. Once they have about 3 sets of true leaves, I'll come in and pinch the top, and this will encourage branching. We're not quite there yet, but it's going to be another week or 2, and then it'll be time to do that. So these 2 trays are really the ones that stay outside. Here we have broccoli. Almost time to transplant these, maybe like a week or 2 more. Here I have artichoke. These ones I'm also going to separate out today. I just planted these recently because I'm not sure if my winter sown artichokes grew, and I wanted to make sure I got some of those. So I'm going to plant these up into 4 individual pots today. I have my thyme, which is looking really nice. This was planted back in January, and it takes a while to get going, but it is looking really nice now. I've got a few more celery plants. Again, these are super tiny. Celery just takes so long to grow. And then I have some more brassicas. I have cabbage and cauliflower. And again, just a couple more weeks for those before they're ready to transplant. In this tray, I have some sweet peas. These are sweet peas that you grow for flowers, not for eating. They are toxic, so don't try and eat sweet peas. But they are super cold hardy, so I just leave these outside even if it goes below freezing. It doesn't really bother them much. And I'm hoping that these are going to be ready to transplant soon. Some of them look like a pretty good size, but other ones are just starting to come up. So I don't know. I hope those smaller ones catch up. And lastly, I just have a partial tray here because I just did these the other day. I made up these cute little paper pots, and I planted some nasturtium seeds in these. It is recommended to direct sow them because their roots can be sensitive, but if I do that, the plants don't get very large in our garden because it just gets too hot too quickly. And nasturtiums are not frost hardy, but they also don't like super hot weather. So for me to get them to get to a good size, I do have to start them first. I do sometimes start them in plastic pots like this, and I don't really see any ill effects from transplanting. Like the roots don't get too disturbed, but I did want to try making these paper pots just because then I can plant the whole thing and this paper will just degrade in the soil. Alright, so that's my little seedling update. That's pretty much everything that I have going on. So today I'm going to be working on just thinning out and separating out these peppers and tomatoes. I'm starting off with thinning my tomato plants. I already have some pots that I have prepared that these are going to be repotted into, and I have filled those up about halfway with potting soil. In each of these pots that I've started the seeds in, I have anywhere from like 2 to 5 seedlings, and I'm just gonna carefully separate these out and put them into the new pots, burying them pretty deep. I am going to try and bury them as close to that first set of leaves as possible. Since my seedlings are very new, they have just germinated, they don't even have any true leaves yet, they're very easy to separate because there aren't a lot of roots to them. But you can do this even a little bit later once they do have that first set of true leaves. Every seedling has enough nutrients in it to get to that first set of true leaves, so crowding doesn't matter too much at the very beginning. But once they have grown that first set of true leaves and are starting to grow the second set, you definitely want to separate them out before they get to that point. And the longer they go, obviously the more difficult it will be to separate them because those roots will be a little bit more vigorous and maybe a little bit more tangled with each other. But tomato seedlings are pretty forgiving. Even if you break off a couple of the roots, it's not that big of a deal because when you bury those tomato seedlings deeply, anywhere where that stem touches the soil, it's going to develop new roots. So even if some of those roots are damaged, you don't have to worry too much about it. The seedlings should be able to bounce right back when you repot them. Next, I'm moving on to my peppers, and here's an example of a pot that has a lot of seedlings. This one has 4 in it, so I definitely need to either thin it out or separate it. I am going to separate out some of my pots just so that I can pull out these seedlings and repot them to give away. But if you're not doing that and you just overseeded in your pots to make sure you got a seed that germinated, you don't have to separate them out in order to thin them out. You can just cut them at the base, which I will show you that I'm going to be doing with a lot of my pots for my peppers. For my tomatoes, I had seeded multiple seeds in each pot knowing that I was going to separate them, but for my peppers, for the most part, I did overseed just to make sure that I could pick the strongest plant. And when I'm repotting these into their new pots, I am trying to bury it just over where it was previously buried on the stem. Peppers are not like tomatoes where they will regrow roots along the stem, so you don't want to bury it up to that first set of leaves. That might cause the stem to rot, but I'll just bury it a tiny bit extra to make sure that that seedling is nicely anchored in the soil and to make it a little bit more sturdy. So here are some other pots where I'm just going in and I'm just taking a look at all the different seedlings in there, and I'll choose the plant that I want to keep in the pot to keep on growing, and the rest I will just cut off at the base. The reason I cut them off instead of pulling them out is so that I don't disturb any of the roots for the one seedling that I do want to leave. When I'm trying to decide which seedling I want to keep, first I'll look at which seedling is further developed because the seeds might germinate at different times. So you should be able to tell which one is further along by the size of the first set of true leaves, because obviously the further along your plant is, that means the closer you are to an eventual harvest. The second thing that I'll look for is for the strongest seedling, and this doesn't necessarily mean the tallest seedling. A lot of times I will actually usually pick the shorter of the two seedlings if it looks like it's a stronger and stockier plant. If the stem is a little bit too tall and too thin, this can lead to a weaker plant that's a little bit leggy, and I would rather have a short, sturdy plant that can bear the weight of its fruit than one that is really tall with a thinner stem that can topple over once this plant starts producing. So those are some things that I look for, and the rest of them I'll just cut off. It's a little bit painful to do. It feels a little bit like you're murdering these little seedlings, but it is a necessary process to allow that one remaining seedling to have enough space to grow really strong. Alright, so I finished thinning and dividing out my seedlings, and this is what I'm left with. I went from having one tray of peppers and tomatoes to almost 2 trays. So here are all of my peppers thinned out. You can see there's just one plant in each pot, so now they can grow up really nice and big without any competition. I had some extra space in the tray, so I just filled in my paper pots here. Here are all my tomatoes. And then I ended up with these plants to give away. These are going to my mom's garden. So yeah, that's it for today's seedling update. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing how everything is progressing so far. Let me know how your seedlings are doing, and I will see you again in the next video.